She boarded the plane, carrying the weight of a broken engagement and dreams she had postponed for someone else. As she settled into her seat, the man beside her leaned over and murmured, "Pretend we're together, and don't look back." At that moment, everything she believed about her future began to change. A stranger, a flight, and an unexpected connection. Could this be the beginning of rediscovering herself? Or something more? Hello, my friends. I am Linda, and this is Linda Love Stories. I hope you enjoy this story. Madison stared at the phone screen, looking for the 10th time at the confirmation email for enrollment in the foreign university. The airport buzzed around her, but she barely noticed, immersed in her own thoughts. Her fingers instinctively touched her left ring finger, where up until 3 weeks ago there had been an engagement ring. 18 months of planning for a wedding that would never happen. 5 years of relationship. All for Nathan to say, on an ordinary Tuesday night, that he wasn't feeling the same anymore. From the loudspeaker, a metallic voice announced the boarding of her flight. Madison sighed, lifting the strap of her backpack over her shoulder. The decision to study abroad came during a sleepless night, when she realized she had postponed many dreams for the promise of a life together that no longer existed. The scholarship in international relations, which she had turned down 3 years ago to avoid being away from Nathan, was, miraculously, still available to her. On the way to the boarding gate, Madison passed a shop window where her reflection stared back at her. Wavy brown hair framed a face with delicate features, hazel green eyes that seemed larger now that she had lost weight. The dark circles told the story of the sleepless nights of recent weeks. At 28 years old, she felt like a frightened teenager. Her entire life had been planned around a single goal: to build a family. From a young age, when she played house in the backyard of her grandparents' home in the countryside, to college, where she met Nathan and quickly incorporated him into her plans. Having children, creating a home. It was all so clear, so certain, until it wasn't anymore. Now, the dream of having a family remained important, eternal within her, but she also understood that first she needed to experience a few things, especially in her youth. Inside the plane, Madison settled by the window. She took out the book she had bought for the journey from her bag but couldn't concentrate. The plane was starting to fill up. Families with children, executives in suits, young backpackers. Madison observed each one, imagining their stories, where they were going, where they were coming from. It was easier to think about other people's lives than to face her own. She felt the seat next to her move. A man was settling in, adjusting his backpack under the seat in front. Madison only observed him from the corner of her eye, short dark hair, stubble, broad shoulders under a simple t-shirt. He smelled of a soft, citrusy cologne. As he was fastening his seatbelt, the man leaned slightly toward her and, without warning, murmured, "Pretend we're together. Don't look back." Madison's breath caught in her throat. A chill ran down her spine. Her first instinct was to press the button for the flight attendant, but something stopped her. Perhaps his voice, which didn't sound threatening, or the way his eyes looked at her without aggression. She looked around. The plane was full, and the flight attendants were moving through the cabin. If she screamed, she would be heard. That gave her some comfort. After a few seconds that felt like an eternity, the man took a deep breath and, with a smile that mixed mischief and embarrassment, said, "Sorry, that was a terrible idea." He ran his hand through his hair, a nervous gesture. "Relax, it was just a joke. The truth is, I needed a way to talk to you. Ever since the airport, I couldn't stop looking at you. I've never seen someone so—" He paused, as if weighing his words. So absorbed in their thoughts. Madison remained silent, her heart still racing. "My name is Jacob." He extended his hand. "And I promise I'm not a psychopath or a kidnapper." Great, that's exactly what a psychopath would say. Madison was surprised at her own response, the first witty thing she'd said in weeks. Jacob laughed, a genuine sound that made something inside her relax a little. Fair enough. Look, I think I started off on the wrong foot. Can we start over? He adjusted himself in his seat. Let me guess. You're going to study? I'm going to study architecture. Madison hesitated. Part of her wanted to put on her headphones and ignore him for the rest of the flight. Another part, a part she no longer recognized, was curious. International relations, she replied succinctly. Cool. First time going there? Madison nodded, noticing that the tension in her shoulders was beginning to ease. For me too. Actually, it's my first time leaving the country. Jacob confessed, with disarming honesty. I'm 32 years old, and I'd never crossed the border before. Always putting it off, you know. First college, then work, then life, Madison completed. Exactly. A comfortable silence settled between them as the plane began to taxi down the runway, preparing for takeoff. Jacob broke the interval, recalling seeing her at the airport, sitting near gate 17, lost in her phone as if the device held all the secrets of the world. Madison blushed upon hearing this, realizing she was indeed distant, in another place. He wanted to know what brought her to that country, and Madison, without exactly understanding why, felt the urge to share. Perhaps because he was a stranger, perhaps because they would be thousands of meters high, free from judgment. She confessed that her engagement had ended just 3 weeks ago, after 5 years of relationship. Jacob simply nodded, without trying to offer consolation, without clichés, just presence. Then he revealed his own wound. A recent divorce, the result of 8 years in which his ex-wife said she did not feel his presence. He acknowledged now that she was right. The plane gained speed and Madison felt her stomach churn with the force of the takeoff. The city below quickly shrank, turning into a tangle of lights that would soon be swallowed by the clouds. Funny how we postpone things, isn't it? Jacob remarked, looking out the window over her shoulder. I always wanted to visit other countries, learn new languages, but there was always something more important. Madison nodded, recognizing herself in those words. I postponed a scholarship 3 years ago, she confessed, to stay close to him. And now you're going. And now I'm going. The flight attendant came by offering drinks. Jacob ordered a red wine, and Madison an orange juice. When the drinks arrived, he raised his glass in a silent toast. Madison returned the gesture with her plastic cup. The following hours passed with surprising ease, as if they had known each other for a long time. They discovered unexpected affinities, both appreciated classic films, were afraid of heights, and even shared the same scar on their right knee, a legacy of childhood accidents. Jacob shared that he had grown up in the countryside, raised by his grandmother after losing his parents in an accident. Madison, on the other hand, spoke about her large and noisy family, always full of expectations for her to get married soon and have children, as if that was the only possible destiny. There was something confessional about that conversation in mid-flight. Madison acknowledged in a low voice, almost as an outpouring, that she had always been the girl with the perfect plan. A house at 25, the first child at 27, the second at 30. Everything was timed, organized, safe. But looking out the window at the night sky, sprinkled with stars above the clouds, she realized how much that script had dissolved. Life, she understood, had different plans for her. When the plane began to descend, a pang of sadness pierced her. In just a few hours, she had shared more of herself with Jacob than with many people she had known for years. He, attentive, wanted to know where she would be staying for the first few months, and Madison said it would be in student housing until she could share an apartment. Jacob nodded, as if he wanted to mentally record every detail. The landing came with a gentle jolt. Around them, passengers were getting up, retrieving luggage from the overhead compartments, and forming hurried lines in the aisle. The intimate bubble in which the two had been during the flight was starting to unravel. Before saying goodbye, Jacob still offered her a genuine smile, one of those that remain in memory longer than they should. They went in opposite directions in the terminal, each to their immigration area. Madison watched him walk away until his figure was lost among the crowd of travelers. For a moment, she had the urge to run after him, ask for his number. But she let the moment slip away. The first months in that new country were a constant discovery. Madison immersed herself in her studies, made friends with classmates from different countries, and explored the city on weekends. She visited museums she only knew from books, tried foods she had never tasted, learned a few phrases in Spanish. It was on an October afternoon, 4 months after her arrival, that Madison was sitting in a cafe, watching the tourists and locals passing by. The autumn painted the trees gold and red, and the air had that special quality of transitional seasons. Lost in her thoughts, she didn't immediately notice the figure approaching her table. "Pretend we're together. Don't look back." Madison's heart skipped a beat. She would recognize that voice anywhere. Jacob was standing next to her table, wearing that same slightly cheeky smile. He wore a worn leather jacket over a light t-shirt and looked more tanned than she remembered. "This is becoming a dangerous habit," Madison replied, unable to contain the smile forming on her lips. "May I?" He pointed to the empty chair in front of her. Madison nodded, feeling a familiar warmth spreading through her chest. "How did you find me?" "Didn't find it," Jacob confessed, signaling to the waiter. "Pure coincidence. I come here almost every Sunday. Of all the coffee tables in all the squares here." The waiter approached, and Jacob ordered a latte. "How has it been for you being here?" she asked, genuinely curious. "Transformative," Jacob replied without hesitation. "I'm learning so much, not just at the university, but about myself. And you?" "I think I'm finding myself," Madison admitted. "Discovering who I am when I'm not trying to be who others expect." They talked for hours. Jacob shared about his projects at the university, about the small apartment he rented, about the friendships he was building. Madison spoke about her classes, the weekend trip she took, and how she was considering extending her stay for another semester. As the sun began to set, they exchanged phone numbers, this time both offering. "Can I call you tomorrow?" Jacob asked as they paid the bill. "I'd like that." They parted with a hug that lasted a few seconds longer than what would be conventional between casual acquaintances. Madison detected the scent of the same citrus cologne she had noticed on the plane, now blended with something that was essentially Jacob. In the following months, Madrid became the backdrop for a relationship that blossomed unhurriedly. Walks through the city's parks, visits to exhibitions, simple dinners in Jacob's small apartment, or in Madison's student dorm room. There was something liberating about being with someone who knew her during a time of transition, who didn't carry expectations based on who she used to be. With Jacob, Madison felt free to explore new interests, to change her mind, to simply be. On a cold January night, while watching an old movie wrapped in a blanket on Jacob's couch, Madison realized she no longer thought of Nathan with pain or regret. What she felt now was gratitude, for having been forced out of her comfort zone, for having found the courage to live what she had always postponed. "What are you thinking about?" Jacob asked, noticing her silence. Madison looked at him, into the eyes she now knew so well, at the face that had become her safe harbor in a foreign city. "I'm thinking about how unpredictable life is," she replied, caressing his face. Jacob smiled, that smile that still made her heart race. Madison nodded, resting her head on his chest. The old notebook now had new pages filled, new dreams, new plans. But this time they were flexible plans, allowing room for the unexpected, for life's twists and turns, and among those plans was Jacob, not as the center of her existence, but as a companion on the journey. Because sometimes it's like this. We need to experience certain things, we need to lose ourselves to find ourselves. The world is vast, full of surprises, and nothing happens outside the right time. Every meeting, every farewell, every reunion has its purpose. Beside him, Madison discovered that she could finally live the dream of starting a family, that old and eternal desire, but now with ease, at the right moment, with the special person destiny had given her. Madison had learned that happiness did not have a fixed address. It was not a destination to be reached. It was a path to be travelled, with all its curves and detours. And for the first time she felt ready to explore every step of that path with confidence and serenity. If you enjoyed the story, please leave a comment with a rating from 1 to 5 to show how much you liked it. Also, watch the video that is now appearing on your screen. See you soon.